Mr. Barrie Trower, it's a fantastic pleasure to be here. It has been quite a complicated travel coming here actually, but it's very, very nice to be here, and it's very important what we're going to discuss and what you have to say. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
During the last few years I've been thinking a lot about Shakespeare. He wrote in Prince Hamlet that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. And of course it's in the state of the world. Something is very terrible wrong. And then we have this former leading scientist in Denmark called Jeanette Quay. She used to teach at Aarhus University. And she got the message from the National Health Board in Denmark that she was allowed to say everything, but that microwaves are dangerous. And that leads me to you. Later on I talked to her and she told me that she believed that the Danes are part of an experiment to be brainwashed by the use of microwaves. And now they believe that they are the most happy people in the world, the Danes. I would like to know from you about children, because children I think is the most precious we got. It's the future. And I would like to start this interview about, we need the parents to realize how dangerous this really is, because it seems like most have not got it yet.
Right. This is going to be a big answer.
It's okay.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I had an appointment with one of our ministers. He's the Minister for Schools, and he wanted me, this was concerning Wi-Fi in schools and its effect on children. And I'm sorry, I'm a slow speaker. I'm afraid we're going to use a lot of tape. I speak very slowly. So the minister wanted me to take something to him that wasn't complicated, wasn't more than 2 or 3 sides of paper, that explained everything. And I thought about this, and in the end I did a cartoon. In this cartoon, and I think this is the most relevant piece of paper, not because I've written it, but because it actually refers to every single child in the world. And I think that the minister I spoke to was quite shocked. Now, what I'm explaining in this, that there are 2 different things with schools. Okay? Now, the first is, if you have a school child, could you imagine if you have, let's say you have a little girl, and I'm talking about girls at the moment, that there is a case for boys, but it's different. Now, if you have a little girl in school, let's say 10 years old, all of her eggs that are to be fertilized are in her body. If she sits with Wi-Fi in front of her, the Wi-Fi is going through the eggs. And what most scientists do not know, and certainly government officials do not know, is that the DNA in these eggs can absorb 10 times more radiation than other DNA in the body. So even if you have a safety level, which there isn't for children anyway, even if you have a safety level, it is 10 times out, straight away. So you are irradiating the eggs inside your little girl. Now, what that means is, if your little girl has DNA damage, and it is likely, we know in the Cold War, women were experimented on deliberately to see the effect of low-level microwave on pregnant women. And we know that 47.7% of the women had miscarriages in the first 8 weeks of pregnancy. So, and there are lots of experiments, so we do know that these eggs absorb radiation. Now, if your little girl has DNA damage, when she grows up and has a baby, if that baby is a little girl, the genetic damage will come out in that little girl, any genetic damage. When she has a baby, your grandchild, the genetic damage will be there, because it is irreparable. It can never, ever be repaired. So what we are doing with our children in primary school is we are saying every single daughter that you have could have genetic disease until there is no more female line. So it's not just children today, it is their children, their children, their children. It's going to go on forever. And we're risking this all because we don't want to buy a piece of wire about that long and plug it into the wall. That's what we're risking. But that's only the first stage. Now, I've been a teacher for many, many years, adults and sixth form, pre-university. And I have had students which are pregnant. And it is legal in this country for 16-year-old girls to be pregnant. The age of sexual consent is 16. In fact, I've taught girls 15 and 14 who've even been pregnant. Now, the next phase of this drawing comes when, if you have, let's say your daughter is pregnant. Now, if you can imagine your daughter is pregnant, and inside the fetus of your daughter, which will be your grandchild, inside that fetus, the eggs are forming, if it is a little girl, because they are born with all of their eggs. So the eggs are forming, and in the first 100 days, your grandchild's eggs are forming. But for the first maybe 50 days, your daughter probably would not know she was pregnant. She wouldn't take any precautions. But also for the first 100 days, and this is, again is what the scientists don't realise, is in the fetus or the embryo, there is no defence mechanism in the body, in the baby, to protect it from radiation. You have defence mechanisms of protein 53, nuclear core complex, that help fight radiation, antioxidants. The embryo doesn't have any of those. So what you are doing, if somebody is pregnant, you are irradiating a person who has no defence against microwaves. And again, a lot of people don't realise that when we are in that first 56 days, we are inside out. Our organs are on the outside of the body, because at a stage later on, after 100 days or so, we actually turn inside out again, so the skin is on the outside. So you have the organs on the outside, and they are taking all of the radiation and all of the damage. And this then will make the baby, or could make the baby, quite genetically damaged with other damage as well, brain damage, cellular damage, whatever damage. And it's not until that fetus is born and then grows up and has another baby that you may get that. So what we're doing here is we are really destroying many successive generations now, just by having Wi-Fi in schools. And it doesn't stop there. With children, now there are in you you have about 4,500 different biological structures making your body. Children have about 4,050 making their body. Now, children are not small adults. They are neurologically and physiologically immature. They have very little defense mechanism. Just to give you an idea, the blood-brain barrier that protects the brain from toxins, in a child that takes around 18 months to form. The nervous system in the body that controls all of our muscles, all of our movement, everything, that takes around 22 years to form properly. There are 122 different layers, if you like, of insulation around the wiring in the body that take 22 years. And it is known, it's laid down by a process called protein synthesis, and protein synthesis is known to be affected by microwaves. The immune system takes around 18 years to develop in a child, and again it is known that the first symptom of microwave syndrome is an attack on the immune system. So what we are really doing by unregulating or deregulating or having no regulation for microwaves, we are really putting a very, very great risk on every single generation. And if it were just me sitting here and nobody else in the world agreed, I might think, well, maybe I'm wrong. But in just the last few months, we know what I said to you about pregnancy and childbirth. We know that is right because there are mammalian species, cats, dogs, mice, rabbits. There are mammalian species who do not take 20 years to have a generation. They can do it in 1 year or 2 years. And vets have already started publishing papers about birth defects, lots of different birth defects, miscarriages, all sorts of problems with birth. And they specifically publish this is due to low-level radiation from microwaves. So we know it started happening with the animal kingdom. We know just in the last few months there is a 3,000% increase in cancers in children in China, a 21% increase that has been found in brain tumours, I think across Australia. There are several published papers now, and I think the most frightening is from the Russian National Radiation Committee with UNICEF, which is the children's charity.